couldn't practice Krishna consciousness and get liberation from the suffering in the way that you were talking about. Could you explain why that isn't so?
Why it isn't? Because God is fulfilling the desire of everyone. And if you don't want to be Krishna conscious, then you will be put in a situation where you can't become Krishna conscious. Secondly, if you're in a situation of suffering, you've caused that suffering to someone else. And God has given scriptures all over the world saying, treat others as you would treat yourself. And yet you have not followed this. And now you've been put into a condition of suffering. And by that suffering, you will become closer to being Krishna conscious. Because if you don't learn by hearing, then you learn by personal experience. So by suffering in the material world, then that's also Krishna's mercy. It's Krishna's mercy when someone comes and tells you, you're an eternal servant of Krishna, you're a spirit soul, your real home is in the spiritual sky, you should give up all material activities, serve Krishna, become happy and go back home, back to Godhead. That's Krishna's mercy. But if you don't listen to that, and you commit sins and hurt other people, then in your next life or your next lives, you're going to suffer. And that suffering is going to crush your pride. And that crushing of the pride and that suffering, that's also Krishna's mercy to help you become Krishna conscious.
Yeah.
So you can learn the easy way or the hard way. But both of them are Krishna's mercy. There's no question of cruelty. God is not envious. We are envious. And out of envy, we criticize God.
Yeah.
God is all merciful. God has unlimited qualities. And all of these qualities are wonderful. But out of all of these wonderful qualities, there's one quality that stands above all the other qualities. And that is that God is so merciful. That is His greatest quality. He's so kind and merciful.
I've been thinking about, when my mum first read On the Way to Krishna, she said she thought this religion was a selfish one and it only had a sense of itself. It's like it didn't take into account, it's like they want you to practice, it wants you to practice what it says, and so it leaves out the rest of the world. Do you see what I'm saying? You must have heard this sort of idea before. Expressing it very well.
Yeah, well, no one can express it very well because it's just a mental concoction.
But
if you ask someone can you specifically explain exactly what you mean by that? This is the Krishna conscious way of life is the only way of life which actually brings about good fortune to the individual and the rest of the world. Krishna consciousness is an absolute process which is beyond duality. So there's no question in Krishna consciousness of, is it for my interest, or is it for someone else's interest, or is it only for God? This is when one is acting on the level of duality, then these considerations are there. I'm going to spend some time doing something for me. I'll spend some time doing something for my fellow man. And I'll spend sometimes doing something for God. Like I'll go to church on Sunday, something like that. So this is a dualistic concept. Because Krishna is the absolute truth, the process to approach Him is also absolute. And because the process of Krishna consciousness is absolute, there's no question of, is this best beneficial for me or you or God? The truth of the matter is, it's the most best beneficial thing simultaneously for me, for God and for everyone else. There's so many I can...
Something that came up was see, I'm talking about, I can't really see the appeal of leading a normal, inverted commas, life by just getting married and getting a job and stuff. And they say, well, how do you know? You haven't had it yet. You haven't got anything to give up yet. If you see what I mean. As my dad was saying, if I really feel strongly about this, I should first get a job, get married and have a couple of children, and then say, I'm prepared to give all this up. And then it's like, it won't just be in principle, I'll practically done it.
So, his argument is that to understand whether you want something or not, you must actually experience it first. So, you could say to your father, the converse, well, if you think that Krishna consciousness is actually, something useless and you should give it up, but you actually haven't experienced it, so first you should become a devotee. And then, when you've actually been a devotee for some time, then you should, give up devotional service and have a family life and everything. What kind of argument is it? It's just waffle. You can just turn around and say exactly the same thing, because it's just sentimental. It's not true.
That's right.
Do you think it's wrong to take drugs? How do you know? First you have to crank up with crack, and then tell me that it's wrong, What do you mean suicide's wrong? You've never killed yourself. How can you say that until you kill yourself? What kind of argument is this? Philosophically, you can understand that something's not favorable. Like, for example, it's not favorable to put a plastic bag over your head because you'll suffocate and die. Yeah. So similarly, if you're not the body, if you're the soul, and the soul is the eternal servant of God, why entangle yourself in so many material responsibilities which impede your service to God? It's very simple. This is a very sentimental argument. It has no logic behind it. So it's a common psychological feature